Welcome to Howay and say Newcastle United just lost 2-1 to Bayer Leverkusen in the VisitMalta Cup. What did you make of that game?
A little bit disappointing. I think if I was going to sum it up in one word, I'd say underwhelming.
Why underwhelming? What makes you say that?
I thought we might have had something different from Eddie Howe from last season, and the talk from Jisler was playing direct, playing centrally, playing forwards. And to be honest, I think we saw 2 or 3 occasions where that happened in the game. So a bit disappointing from that perspective, and it looked same.
He's not had long, you could say he's had a week, 2 weeks to be with the squad. Is that enough time to impact it?
Probably not, but there are certain things that should have been impacted, and the pressing. Yeah, we've heard a lot about if high energy pressing, if they're not pressing, then it's a very quick break. So the high energy pressing was intermittent, and when the pressing was there, it was 1 or 2 instead of 3 or 4, and we were just passed through. So yeah, I think they could have done better. I think it could have been something different from Jisler.
It did look too easy for Bayer Leverkusen. They looked like they were playing direct, they were playing forward football. How easy it was to cut through, and that obviously partly because of that press.
I agree with you, and what they were able to do is they were dominating the midfield. So we still had our 2 or 3 players in the middle, but suddenly, after they've played through us, we were outnumbered. We had 2 to their 3 every single time, and we seemed to suffer through the middle, through their attacks.
Yeah, and do you think that's because of the young midfield that was there? To start off, it was Miley and Sturr, and then they swapped it for the new lad, Finnegan, I think his name was.
Not necessarily. I don't think it was anything to do with the fact that they're young. I think it's to do with the fact that there wasn't a defensive midfielder in there. And who would you play there? Well, you could have played Joe Linton. I haven't seen enough of Bamba to know whether he can do that job, but certainly the players the 3 that you mentioned there, I don't think any of them are defensive midfielders. Which is strange, because
you commented during the game that Sturr was dropping in to get that ball almost like a third centre half at times.
He was. His positioning for that job was good. You could quite clearly see what Jisler was having them doing from playing out from the back, but he didn't get on the ball enough. He was in the position, but the ball went wide, mostly to Lewis Hall, occasionally the other side, but they didn't play it into the middle enough for him to have the impact consistently throughout the 90 minutes.
Yeah, and you talk about playing out from the back. It was kind of, you said it during the game, playing out from the back, and then just a kind of a hopeful ball up to the top, which unfortunately, when you've got Nick Voltemade as unit man, it's just not sticking. He's not that kind of centre forward that holds up play and links others in, or at the moment he's not because of form.
I'm not sure whether it's form or not. I think it's not his style. That's not how we get the best out of Nick Voltemade, I don't think. Plus, it was difficult to work out where he was playing.
Yeah, was he 9, was he 10?
First half, he was alongside Wisser, and it was difficult to know who was playing further forward. Was it a target man? Was it somebody playing off him? It was unclear. They seemed to be side by side.
Yeah, which brings the question of Liverpool next weekend. Jisler's not got long to pick his strongest 11, because that's going to be a quick awakening to Premier League football against Liverpool. Who does he go with as a number 9?
It'd be interesting to see if he plays Asula. He's certainly one that would help the press. If he could lead his colleagues who are playing further up front in joining in with the press with him, then that could be a thing. But I still, despite his performance, and he seemed a little bit quiet and a bit of a lack of energy, I think Wisser, he is a good player, and I think if he's encouraged by Asula, he's encouraged by somebody else to get that press in, I think he could do all right. If there's 2 of them playing, if he stuck with the same formation as the first half today, then I think that could be it. I think that could be the way to do something against Liverpool.
And I'll talk about the other end. Defensively, they look quite shaky today, despite having a fairly strong defence. You'd say Lewis Hall, Shaw and Botman are 3 of your 4 starters. It's looked shaky, and it's looked shaky all pre-season.
I'll start off with a positive there. I think defensively in the air, we were pretty good. I don't think they had 2 big fellas, and I can't remember which numbers they were. 35. I don't know what his name was. And Boniface when he came on. I thought we dominated defensively in the air, But you're right, on the ground, I think we look pretty slow. I think Botman looked slow, and I know people have talked about his injuries and his facial injury. Is he scared, or is he a bit wary of getting into tackles close in?
Has he lost a bit of pace?
Has he lost a bit of pace? Lewis Hall, he looked all right, but he kept coming inside. Maybe that was his instructions. But the positives that we had from Lewis Hall last season was playing wide. I know it was with Anthony Gordon, it wasn't with Harvey Barnes, but the positives we had from him was when he did that, and he didn't get the opportunity to do it very much here today. And from the other side,
Mason Miley,
no,
for a young lad with no cover from Alanga, it was promising.
Promising, I kind of get, but I think he hasn't got the pace for the Premier League unless he improves by the time he becomes an adult. And I know he's still a child now, but unless he improves pace-wise, I don't think he can be effective as a right-back in the Premier League.
So then, kind of, at the moment, there is talk that Newcastle have signed Dedic, the full-back, but at the moment it would be Leo Shahar or Mason Miley as a right-back for the game against Liverpool because Livramento isn't fit. How confident are you that either one of those could do a job next weekend?
Fairly low confidence in either of those two doing it. What are the alternatives? Pivas, who came on? No. The two lads who we've seen doing that? Not really. I think if it would worry me in the same way that when Dan Burn played left back, he was targeted.
Yeah.
And could that happen next week if we're playing with a right back and then they get constantly targeted? That would be a concern.
The thing is, though, Dan Burn's an experienced professional. He kind of knows the score. Throwing in a young lad at there, that it could be detrimental to him and his development as well as the team.
Yeah, I think the way to avoid that kind of thing happening is if, as a team, we stop that happening and if we press and we win the ball or make them make mistakes. Otherwise, we're just going to get into the position where they can play out from the back and they can just put the ball left or right or play through the middle, there's three alternatives to what we should be wanting to happen.
Fair. But if we look at the current squad, how ready do you think it is for Premier League football, or do you think there needs to be more investment in something, somewhere?
Well, I talked about creativity previously, but not forgetting we've got Big Joe, we've got Ramsey, and I know Joe Willock's not everyone's cup of tea, but those three have got hundreds of Premier League appearances between them, and they're not mugs. Don't get me wrong, they're not mugs, but if we can have one or two of those playing at a time during the game at some point, I think we can do okay. Don't think we'll win many away games. Don't think we'll dominate many games, but at least with those three we can bolster what we've got from the young, hopefully exciting talent for the future.
Which it is, because if we look at Sean Sturr today, he got on the ball, he was exciting. You said a few things about him.
Yeah, he does things that Bruno does. Yeah. He might not do them as well. He might not get the tackles in, but certainly from a creative perspective, he was putting the ball. He was putting the ball wide with some decent long passes. Same sort of style that Fabian Schär did. He was laying it off to the keeper at the right times. He was turning at the right times and playing it through the centre. So, yes, very positive. Not as hopeful that he's going to have such an impact because of his age. He's not a defensive midfielder. He hasn't got the all-round package that you would hope for somebody who of that quality. But again, you just have to think of his age.
And that hopefully will come with age, with experience. The more he plays, and hopefully Iceland can bring that out in him. So we look to next weekend, Liverpool. How confident are you for the win?
For the win, hopeful rather than expectant. I can't see us conceding too many if they get back and defend properly. I'm not sure about us scoring. I think our best chance of scoring is if we press properly. If we press properly and win the ball high up or get some throw-ins further up the pitch, then yes. If we break quickly, so that's another one of the styles of play that Jisla was talking about, and we did it twice today. And we had Walter Marder and Wisser at one point in time in the second half. That outpaced the Leverkusen defence. Yes, we didn't get a decent shot in at the end, but we've seen what can happen if we do it right. We won the ball, it was in between our penalty area and the centre circle, so we can do it and we can break. So if we get that right, that's another string to our bow for next week.
So hopefully he's got another week to work on it and bring that out a little bit more, because it was few and far between those chances that we've seen.
I agree, but you don't need more than a few chances to score. You know, if you score 1 in 5 and you have 5 chances, then that's better than nothing.
And then just quickly, how do you think Newcastle will do this season? Where do you think they'll finish?
Difficult for me to say. I think to not be disappointed, I think finishing where we did last season, 12th. But I've got a suspicion it's either going to be very good or very poor.
You've said that.
I've said that before, and the young players can be exciting. They can do some exciting things. If their heads get down after November and December, it could be a struggle, yeah. So expectation somewhere in the middle, possibility of something very good or very poor. So yeah, very good or very poor. And I've changed my mind about somewhere in the middle, but that's what I think might happen.
Yeah, fair enough. Thank you very much.